In this video, I'm going to give you a formula that will help you to be successful at anything in your musical life or really just your life in general. And of course, it's just 3 steps. But before we get into this success formula, I first want to just have a little sort of sponsored message, just a reminder for you that if you don't own the next generation clarinet method, you should check it out. If you're a clarinetist, if you're a beginner, all the way to an advanced player, and you're looking for something to help guide you through your clarinet journey, then I highly encourage you to check out the next generation clarinet method. You can go to quickstartclarinet.com/nextgenbook to learn more about it. It's my best resource that I've ever put together, and I have that page up for you to learn all about what it's about. But if you haven't checked it out, if you've maybe heard me talk about it before, you should just check it out. You should get it. You should try it out. I promise it will make a difference in your clarinet playing. All right, let's get into the success formula. So it's 3 steps because you know how much I love 3-step things. Unfortunately, I haven't quite figured out how to work this one into a triangle, but I'm working on it. I'll come up with it eventually. But the 3 steps are really, really simple. It's just what, how, and where. And the beauty of it is once you get really comfortable with those 3 things and you're really clear about what those 3 things are, you'll be able to get really anything that you want, whether it's better clarinet playing, whether it's a better job, whether it's a better life. I think this formula really applies to all aspects of life, but I'll talk about how to use it in your clarinet playing specifically. So let me quickly define what those 3 things are about, and then we'll go a little deeper into what they actually mean and how to use them properly. So the what is very simply, what do you want? What do you want to play like in your clarinet playing? Maybe it's a competition or a piece or an audition or getting into a school. Like, that's the what. What do you actually want? The how is also very simple. It's just how do you get to what you want? What are the steps to do that thing? And then lastly is where, and that has to do with where you currently are. So knowing the what and the where often helps with the how, but the big mistake that I think a lot of people make is we really get bogged down in the how and really focus on the how. Everybody's thinking, what exercise should I be doing to play better? What pieces should I work on? Like how to do this. But I think we often lose sight of the what and the where. And I think if you can get better clarity on those, it makes it so much easier to know what the steps are for the how. So looking at this a little deeper, let's go into the what category. I think the what is the best place to start. So ask yourself, what do you actually want? And this is something that could be great to journal about or maybe meditate about or just take a few minutes to think about it. Try to remove any distractions. If you want to do this now while you're watching the video, pause the video and take at least 5 minutes, maybe even up to 20 minutes, just to sit and ask yourself, what do you want? And as you're trying to brainstorm that, it may be a little tricky at first to come up with something, but the way to go deeper with it is to also ask yourself why. So say the what you want is to get into a certain school for your college for undergraduate degree in music of some sort. So that's a pretty clear what. That's kind of easy to understand, but maybe go a little deeper and ask yourself, why do you want to get into that? And maybe that's because you want to have a degree so that you can audition for orchestras, and then ask yourself, why do you want to audition for orchestras? And then go deeper and deeper, and eventually you should come up with a really clear vision and sort of idea of what you want. The what that I want is to get into this school, to study with this teacher, to get experience in this ensemble so that I can go win an audition with an orchestra or a military band or whatever it may be, so that I can make money playing the clarinet, so that I can support myself, so that I can have an enjoyable career. So that's a good sort of way to narrow it down and to get really specific about the what. Once you have that clarity, it'll give you a lot more of an idea of what you actually need to do to get to that point. Doing an audition is one thing, but getting a career in an orchestra is a completely different thing, and the steps to get there will be a bit different. And when you have that long-term scope of what you want, that'll make a big difference. And that's just one example. Your what should be personal to you and be really clear for you. Perhaps another example might be for somebody who's an adult playing in a community band, and your what is to just have fun playing the clarinet. And then you ask yourself, why do you want to have fun? And maybe it has to do with getting to connect with other people when you're playing in your band. Maybe part of what you want is to be one of the leaders in the band. Sometimes in all band settings, whether you're in high school all the way up to retirement age, it can be hard when you know you're the worst player in the band and you sort of feel like you're holding everybody back. So maybe your what is to go from the worst player in the band to one of the better players in the band. And then the why for that is probably some social reasons, and also just because you want to help the band to sound better, and that's great. And you can go deeper and deeper and get more and more clarity on what that actually means, and ask yourself, okay, if that's what I want, then what do I need to change? Like maybe the what is better sound quality, better control of the high notes, better articulation. Then you can really narrow down to what it is truly that you want to accomplish. Now, going on from there, I think before you do the how, I think it's much better to go for the where first. So this is where you're currently at. So you know what you want. Now you need to identify where you're at, and it's really important to be honest with yourself at this point. There's no use in overestimating your abilities. It's also really common to underestimate your abilities or where you're currently at. So try to be super duper honest with yourself. Maybe listen to some recordings. You can maybe even directly compare recordings. Like for me, for example, I want to sound like Martin Frost. Like that's maybe one of my whats. So I can listen to a recording of myself and listen to them back to back and think, okay, where are the things that I'm not matching? Like what do I need to do to sound more like Martin Frost? And by having this clear image of where you're at as opposed to what and where you want to eventually be, then it makes it so much more clear what you actually need to do in between. And that's the how part of things. For the how section, I don't think it's super important to give specific details. Pretty much all of my other videos go into the how category of things. So doing your warm-ups, doing different practice techniques, all of that stuff is the how to get from where you are to what you want. But the really important thing with that is to have that underlying reasoning behind it. I think so many people right now in their playing, and most people just in general, sort of live in that how area and don't think so much about the what or the where. And when you live in that how area, that's when you end up just going through the motions on the exercises. Like, yes, you do long tones, because if you're watching this video, I've probably told you enough times to do long tones that hopefully it's sticking and you're actually doing your long tones. But doing long tones and just doing them just because you're supposed to do them, because that's like you've been told that's how to practice, that's how to do things, is just do long tones, do warm-ups, that is good, but not as good as it could be if you have the clarity of sort of the why you're doing the long tones. So for example, in the what, I want to sound like Martin Frost makes every note sound beautiful, makes every connection between the notes sound effortless, and that's amazing. Me, not every note is as beautiful or as effortless. Maybe sometimes a throat tone note gets away from me, or maybe my high notes don't come out clearly right away. So that's some things that I can actually work on in the long tones. So now instead of just doing the long tones, I'm doing the long tones with a purpose, where I'm trying to make the notes sound as good as Martin Frost. I'm trying to make the connections as good as Martin Frost. And that is where you actually start to get a difference and start to make progress, when your hows have a purpose behind them. So maybe, for example, your what is maybe something really simple and really specific. Like, I want to be able to play this fast piece of music that we're doing in a band. So that's the what, learn this music. The where is, I'm not familiar with the music, I can't move my fingers fast enough, I don't even know what the scale is that we're playing. So then the how is get familiar with the music, get familiar with the scales, and work on moving your fingers faster. So now, when you're in that how stage, instead of just practicing the piece over and over and over again, you can have some purpose behind it of maybe going slower to make your fingers more comfortable, learning the scales that the piece is based on so you know what the notes are and where the notes are going, and all of that other stuff that you can do that now actually has some direction to it and some momentum and a goal. It's so much easier to be successful when you know what you're aiming for and where you're coming from, rather than just meandering aimlessly through the things that you've been told to practice without knowing why you're actually doing it. So that was a bunch of examples of how this applies to the clarinet. Hopefully you can see how this can apply to lots of other areas of your life. This success formula actually can work for literally anything in your life. Just be really clear about what you want, really clear about where you are, and almost always just by getting clarity on those two ends, you'll be able to fill in the gaps of what you need. So say you want to make more money in your career, but right now you're just an entry-level worker. So maybe you need to go back to school and get a degree so that you can be more qualified. Maybe you need to train with a mentor and get more experience in the field. It becomes so easy when you know what you want and where you're currently at, instead of just thinking, maybe I should go back to school, maybe I should get a mentor, maybe I should do these things, but you don't know why you're doing them. You need to know the why for the in-between, and that will give you that direction like I was talking about. And that's true for absolutely everything in life. All right, I hope that was helpful. If you enjoyed this sort of life coaching type video, then be sure to press the like button and I'll know to make more content like this for you. If you want more clarinet and music tips and tricks, be sure to subscribe to the channel. And like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, if you want to get better at the clarinet and you don't have the next generation clarinet method, you should go to quickstartclarinet.com/nextgenbook to check that out. I really think it's worth your time and worth the very small price that I'm charging for it, and it's going to keep getting better. Over this summer I have some plans for version 3 of the book that I think are going to be absolutely awesome, so get over there, check it out, and thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in another one.